Good evening, everybody. Another beautiful fall day in Danville. It was nice and warm. It was gorgeous out, a little wet, and it's only going to get colder and colder. However, I must remind all of you that this is a formal declaration that a week from tomorrow is Thanksgiving. I'm just here to be helpful and kill time while everyone's logging on. And we've been running a poll in our office to see what what the most popular side dish is for Thanksgiving. Okay? And now I'll give you three choices. What are you laughing at? Pumpkin pie. Okay?
That's a side
Not side dishes. Not side dishes. Dish, the whole dish. The whole dish. Pumpkin pie, stuffing, or chicken and noodles.
Are we waving masks?
This here is what do you say?
Well then, y'all need to ask her.
It was stuffing. This year is stuffing, and everyone said, "My grandma's stuffing." It's not like my mom's stuffing. It's like your grandma's stuffing because grandma made it better than anyone else. But it's something in the air because last year it was corn casserole, and then the year before that was cranberry salad. So stuffing is going to be popular, and I heard that there's going to be a run on stuffing. So, you guys done? All right. Okay.
Just say yes.
Yes. Yeah, because you don't want to hear anymore. We're now in open session, and I would love it if everyone would just rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You have a person that's not in compliance with the mask, and either we're gonna do it or we're not.
Please put your mask on. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna need you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's on. Yep, she has it.
Thank you. We do need masks. We do, the only exception in the room, if you want to not use your mask when you're speaking, so that we can all understand you, I guess, be okay. Turn your head, so, okay. So we appreciate that. And maybe this will come to an end someday. That's my editorial comment. But I would entertain a motion, now that we're back in open session, for student discipline.
Mr. President, I move that we uphold the findings of the board in several student discipline cases, namely 22-20-06-10, 07-11, 08-12, 09-13, 10-14, 11-15, 12-16, 13-17, and 22-22, 02-18, that is, and 03-19.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
We have lots of seconds. Awesome. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Ethan,
Yes.
Mrs. Terry,
Yes.
Elder Park,
Yes.
Pastor Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Strader,
Yes.
Mrs. Holland,
Yes.
Dr. Ashton.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. That brings us to the consent agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to the consent agenda? Excellent. Seeing none, I would take a motion for the approval of the consent agenda, item 4.
So move.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. If there aren't any comments, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Holland,
Yes.
Mrs. Strader,
Yes.
Pastor Miller,
Yes.
Elder Park,
Yes.
Mrs. Terry,
Yes.
Mr. Ethan,
Yes.
Dr. Ashton.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. That brings us to public comments. Who is keeping track?
I got it.
Miss Bud.
Where's Mrs. Lane? I got it.
Oh, okay.
Lori Grant,
Hello. Good evening, board. Dr. Geddes. I am Lori Grant. I am the ESL teacher at Mark Denman, as well as the new AVID coach for Mark Denman, so I'm super excited about that. I just wanted to come and share a few of the great things we're doing at Mark Denman lately. I did bring a flyer for you, so I'm going to start by passing that around while I get chatting, please. All right, so we did something new this year at our parent-teacher conferences, and Mrs. Cottrell, the PBIS coach in our building, she worked with the aides and the support staff to create a home school connection opportunity for our families. They got to walk around our cafeteria. They got to go to different stations about all the different things we have going on in our building. So they visited a PBIS table, the social work table. We had community information for them. Our home liaisons were there as well to talk about what time school starts and being there on time, ready to learn. And of course, there was an AVID table. So this flyer was handed out at our AVID table. And it just kind of highlights some of the components of AVID we've been working on this year. And if you look at the back, I created QR codes for you to scan with your phones so that you can check out our AVID at MDE Flipgrids. And you can check out, you can directly go to our Mark Denman Facebook page so you can check out all that awesome stuff too. So that's there for you. Our students have been working this month on being, their PBIS goal is speaking kindly to staff and students in the building. Our goal was 200 positive referrals, and we are at 181 as of this morning. So I have a good feeling by tomorrow we might have reached our goal. Tomorrow, our students will participate in a virtual assembly about Ned, and he has a growth mindset. So that ties into AVID and our PBIS goals, and they will get to learn about the power of yet. We also have started mentor groups. Our 3 awesome home liaisons have begun lunch groups with them, and we will also be partnering with 2 pastors in the community to come in or do virtual. We haven't decided yet to also meet with our students. And I just wanted to give one more plug for our Facebook page. Our 4th grade students do an AVID weekly wrap-up on Friday mornings. And they sit and they read and they tell you all about the things happening that week, that month. They give you some AVID information, PBIS information, and it's awesome and it's really fun. This year we've included all grade levels as well. We've had guest appearances by all of our grades. So I just wanted to share some awesome things we're doing at Mark Denman with you, and I appreciate your time tonight. Any questions, concerns? No?
What time is the Friday morning?
So we typically go on, we try for 9:15. Sometimes we have some technical difficulties or some nerves, so we've got to work around those. But it's always available as well. So if you miss it, you can always rewatch it on there as well.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice
That's
job.
awesome. I kind of like want to like be in a group or something. I want to have fun. That is very awesome. Next comment? Which way did it go?
It went, oh, no, that, I'm talking about the other
Okay, I
way.
got one going this way and one going that way.
Here you go.
Good evening. I am Holly Weiss. I am a teacher at Garfield Elementary School. And I've been teaching there since 2003 when Miss Cherry hired me many, many years ago for a 100-year celebration. And we know that Garfield's on the topic of discussion. We know it's outdated. That's a lot of money to update it. So we're just here to show our support. And I might get emotional because I have been there since 2003. But I just want to tell you, Garfield's the last real neighborhood school. And I don't know if you really take in consideration of that. For example, we have small class sizes. Our families and students, they build relationships outside of school. These families become friends, the kids become friends. Every year at the end of the year, we go to Lincoln Park. We have an end of the year picnic. We walk the kids there. It's their park, it's their neighborhood. The families walk there. It's like a big family reunion. We're a close community. We're a family. It's not just an outdated school. Other benefits. If a parent's car breaks down or they can't catch a bus, they walk to school. They walk to parent-teacher conferences. They walk to family night. We have great attendance. These parents are involved. And another thing, it's generations of families. I've been there since 2003. Kids I've had their cousins, I've had their nieces, their nephews, their kids, and now, I'm not that old, but I've had their grandkids. And the families know me, they trust me, this is their school, they feel safe. They feel open coming to me, they feel open coming to our school. And if this is before even COVID, if kids got sick, we could walk to the house. We could drop off homework in their mailbox on their front porch. If kids were absent, truant, I've been there to doors many times knocking. Why are you not at school? And most of all, and I'm sorry, I knew I'd come up here and be a big crybaby, but I don't know if you're aware, but we have 2 trees planted in the front yard of our school. Those trees were planted in memory of 2 students of ours who passed away while they were attending Garfield School. Gage Foote, in 2007, tragically died in a car accident. The school came together. We planted this tree as a family. We had a balloon release. Even to this day, this was 2007, to this day, I have students, classmates of Gage's, who call me up, Miss Weiss, can you meet me after school? Can you meet me at the tree? I need to talk to you. And I do, and we talk. It's not just family, it's a community. It's a neighborhood school. Nadia Walker died a few years ago to pneumonia. She was a first grader. And we planted a tree in memory of her. The plaques on both trees are engraved with their school picture that Tri-Guard Bronze did for us. Nadia's family still comes with flowers, not on her tree, but Gage's tree too. And the most important thing about neighborhood school, and I know Mr. Hart, you know, because when Nadia passed away, she has many siblings that attended Garfield. They quit coming to school. We got concerned. Mr. Thorlton was our principal at the time, and we called. Mom said, I can't get them to school. I can't get them there. They won't get out of bed. They're depressed. We called Mr. Hart. What can we do? He said, we can walk. We can walk and we can get them. Mr. Hart showed up, and he walked with us. We walked as a staff. We went to their house. We got those kids out of that house, and we walked them to school. And it wasn't just one day. It was weeks. Weeks. Snow, rain, cold weather, blocks. We walked it, and sometimes I carried the little one, the kindergartner. But after a while, they realized they were safe at that school. They felt welcome. They felt loved. And they started walking on their own. And I know, Mr. Hart, you even said when we were walking those blocks, this is the benefit of a neighborhood school. And you see the other kids, oh, that's my teacher. Oh, you know, and they wanted to join. They wanted to walk with us. And I just hope I know it's a lot of money. I know it's outdated. But I hope you just take all that in consideration. Thank you. That it's more than just an outdated building to us. It's a neighborhood school. And we're a family. So thank you.
I don't kick them off.
Oh, if I sign it on. I need that paper back.
At last month's meeting, someone asked if we could be more independent in the control of our school. The answer to that, we need to understand how we got here. In 1900, there were some 238 school districts in Vermilion County, a staffed educational resource within walking distance of even the smallest child. Autonomous educational systems funded and run by the surrounding citizens for the benefit of their children. Educational systems so good that 8th grade tests given then cannot be passed by most high school students today. During that same time period, the occultist John Dewey began implementing a nationwide educational system designed to produce regimented people that would be easily manipulated and controlled. Then, to ensure total dominance over the indoctrination of our children, state and federal funding, accompanied by regulations, were steadily increased throughout the decades. Enslavement now so complete as to render local school boards impotent in determining not only how and what is taught, but even the health and safety of our children. All public school boards are now simply bureaucratic vehicles that deliver the orders of higher-level technocrats, all wearing the mask of sanity, low-frequency people whose intent is to ensure a compliant herd. So to answer the question, can we, the answer is probably not, since Americans today have little ability to think critically and are useless in standing against the tyranny now upon us. At last month's meeting, you voted to reduce the test scoring of students so you can pass them through an autocratic educational system, justified by a contrived pandemic of a never-proven virus claimed to be present through a fraudulent test now requiring a bioweapon injection. This is only the beginning of lower test scores, as the criminal mandating of masks that result in permanent neurological brain damage will accelerate the ongoing cognitive decline. One of the board members justifiably spoke out against the federal government that now classifies citizens who challenge school boards as terrorists, further stating that this board has no fear of those who come to speak. Really? The statement rings a bit hollow when a requested armed enforcer continues to be present at each meeting. You also might want to reconsider that statement and think about what will be happening when parents finally figure out you're killing their children with masks. There is something going on with this board which is deeply troubling, with secret litigations and court rulings impacting the administration of our children's education. Now, the same board has secretly interviewed and selected new board members without community overview. Has District 118 governance become a communist design? And through such actions, we hope that we are not getting ideological clones of what we already have, exacerbating an already critical situation. Yes, you can use intimidation to dominate and terrorize others or manipulate them with jokes and laughter, but in the end, many will eventually see the mask that is worn, with an eventual charge of crimes against humanity. Throughout history, religion has always been used as a manipulation tool of the masses. Prayer to a higher power is all well and good, but doing is what changes things. A constant call to prayer is just one of Lucifer's tricks in keeping people from doing what needs done. Dr. King prayed for guidance in doing. In closing, here's a great example of how our educational system works in keeping people ignorant and manipulated. During the Revolutionary War, England asked Russia to send Cossacks to augment the German Haitians in defeating the American colonists. Russia refused, since the colonists had a right of free will. Then in the War of 1812, Russia sent a naval squadron that assigned ships to critical seaports to keep England from doing sea landings of troops which would have immediately conquered the United States. During the Civil War, Russia sent two squadrons, one to the east, the other to the west coast, with directives that they were to take their orders directly from Lincoln, and should they ever be attacked by Southern forces, to lay waste to Southern ships and ports. A move that kept France from joining the fight, which would have ended quickly. To hide this, Russia is continually marginalized or touted as the boogeyman, even though recently they closed the airspace over Syria, saving millions of Christians. But you're not to know any of this, because fear is the primary tool used by those who herd us down the road to our next enclosure, as the money men continue profiting in the farming of our pain and suffering they have always inflicted upon us.
Moving on. Yeah.
Here's a hard copy of the package. Elder Parks, it has one there. Thank you.
Can you explain that?
Oh, to the people?
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to. We're just having discussions here about getting logged online properly between us, and some of us are having difficulty doing that. So we got going with hard copies there. So it's not when we're not paying attention, because I listened to that. Thank you very much. Any more? That's it? Okay. Thank you. Again, we appreciate comments. We don't normally comment on the comments, but we will probably address some of the comments at our meeting as we go on. So, thank you very much for that. That brings us to item number 5, which is the DEA agreement with the DEA, correct? And with that, it has been voted by the DEA and accepted. And we are to vote as a board to accept our part of the agreement. And that's what the motion is.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? Glad to do it, first of all. And a roll call vote, please.
Elder Park,
Yes.
Mrs. Allen,
Yes.
Mrs. Terry,
Yes.
Mr. Easton,
Yes.
Mrs. Strider,
Yes.
Dr. Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Ashton.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very, very much, and congratulations to the DEA and all of our teachers. That brings us to item number 7, Northridge Middle School 8th grade promotion changes.
Good evening, board.
Is it that time of the year already?
We have to talk about it now. We do.
We haven't even had turkey yet.
Good evening, board. I'm Dr. Jacoby. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Secondary. We've been kicking around the idea of changing promotion for Northridge for quite a few years. Obviously, COVID kind of stopped a lot of it because, we just didn't. But in looking at it, we're bringing to the board the idea that we want to change the focus from this ceremony that is going on in this other, at the arena, to more of a transition to the high school, a step-up experience, recognition at the high school with transitional activities. For example, Ms. Brooks and Ms. Cherry and I have talked about the fact that we want to have it to be more of a focus on, now that you're transitioning from 8th grade, you're going on to the high school, that focus on the graduation from high school, but to have a ceremony absolutely at the high school, then have a picnic, then have the freshmen team up with sophomores that are going on as buddy to help them transition and get used to the high school at an earlier time. It would be a great opportunity for guidance counselors to be hands-on with the students, help develop their 4-year plans. It's just more of an opportunity. So at this time, the administration is recommending that we make the changes, and we really believe that this will help focus on that transition to the high school. Any questions?
Do I have a motion to accept this recommendation?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Have you had any parental input on this, or is it more coming from administration, or has there been student input? Teachers?
This really came from more, I guess, in looking at the bigger picture beyond just a ceremony at the 8th grade level. I also know that the promotion ceremony at the Palmer Arena, while it had its benefits, it was a solitary moment, and that was it. And I guess we're trying to build a bridge. That's the idea behind it, is that we're really trying to build the bridge, get the students to the high school, really get them focused, and then create that transition experience. And it definitely was an idea when you look at school improvement efforts. They talk about what are your 8th to 9th grade transition activities, what are you doing? That's where the conversation started, and it started about 3 years ago.
So what are the plans for, encouraging the parents and students buy-in for this?
Well, we would still have we're still going to have a ceremony at the high school.
Gotcha.
It'll be during the day, though, and then what we want to do is extend it rather than having it at night in a separate entity. We're still going to have an 8th grade recognition ceremony.
Gotcha.
But we want to ingrain it into, this is your next big step, you're going to be at the high school.
That's great.
You said during the day, so the recognition part is going to be during the day. So if you're a parent, and your parent's going to see this, or do they have to be off? What day of the week is it going to be?
Well, we haven't picked an exact, obviously changes have to be
I
approved
know.
before we
I
do
know.
them. We haven't picked
But it's not a Sunday.
No, it
Okay.
would be during the day, and because obviously we want the kids and the staff of the
And
high
the
school
staff.
there.
So we're
welcome.
going to have the staff there. It's not going to be a Monday through Friday.
Right. And which it was back in the day. I mean, way back in the day, our students did do promotion at the high school. They weren't always at the Palmer.
Yeah, but that was a.
It was
an
at a
evening.
nighttime thing, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
So not gonna be an evening thing, it's gonna be an afternoon
That's
or-
what we
or
would
during the
prefer,
day
yes.
thing.
Yes.
So your concern is parent ability to
To
participate?
take off work and go. Okay, well, I mean, that's,
But would the parents be involved in the evening activity?
There is no.
there won't
Like
be
the
evening
transition?
activities, it'll be during the day.
No, that's what we're proposing is that it's not at night, that it is during the day so that our students get more of a transition while the high school is there.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that,
Yeah.
but I guess still, my question is, where do the parents have any type of, I don't wanna say input, but
Involvement.
participation in any of the eighth grade transition?
Well, but that's what I'm saying. And if the board feels strongly that a nighttime activity has to take place, then we can do it at the end, we can do it at night of the day where the kids are over there doing the step-up day and that. It's just, we were really trying to get away from that one ceremony
I agree.
that's separate from,
Well, we want them to graduate from high school, not eighth grade.
Yeah.
yes, that is absolutely the focus
Yeah.
on graduation from the high school is really the goal.
Yeah.
Not graduation from eighth grade.
Right.
Being a K-12 system too. But obviously, I mean, if the board feels strongly that parents need the opportunity at night, we can flip-flop and have the kids over in the afternoon and then have the recognition ceremony at night at the high school. We just thought it would be really good to do that more, like an 11 o'clock morning, have the picnic for the kids, then in the afternoon, they get to experience the high school.
No, I would just like to say, as a previous administrator, and one that had to work those, I felt like it was more of corralling, rather than, and I have never believed in eighth grade graduation because I think it sends a false sense of completion, and they have not completed anything. We're ready, as you said, for them to go to the next step. Only thing I was asking is, if we're not gonna have something like that, that parents know now,
That's why we're having this
Yeah.
discussion in November
so we
before
don't get all the
Thanksgiving.
emails later
Right,
to say.
absolutely,
No one told us.
right, absolutely.
Get them tomorrow.
Well, in what I'm seeing presented to us here, I'm not seeing anything that would prevent, in addition to this, adding in something for parental involvement. Or is that sealed off if we vote for this tonight?
No, and I guess maybe I need to understand, what do you mean? Like, do we want parents to help us plan this event? Absolutely, we could
No,
use
so-
the help. Or is it just, typically, right now, all parents do, their whole role of involvement is they show up at the Palmer Arena when the kids walk across,
They don't
the
even
stage.
walk.
That's,
They stand up.
well, actually, they stand up and sit down. And what I'm saying is that I need to know, well, what do you mean by parental involvement? Because we're still planning a recognition ceremony. We're still planning on having students recognize this. These are our eighth graders who are bridging over into ninth grade.
But not with the parents there.
No, we will invite parents in the morning. To Dr. Ashton's point, what he's saying is, do you need to consider having it in an evening because parents would have to take off of work to attend?
Okay, so parents are invited.
Yes, parents are absolutely.
Okay, that settles,
That's the
that thing there. Yes, there will be some sort of recognition where the parents can see their child being recognized for
Yes.
this.
Absolutely, for the
Crowning
completion
achievement.
of eighth grade, right.
Okay, so, yes, that's my reticence on it, is that I would like to have seen it at night, but I'm okay. I would probably support this because it is a recommendation that's brought to us, and it's probably more thought than the 4 minutes or 5 minutes of discussion that we have at this time, and I'm probably not the wisest person. However, okay, I'll say, I think it would be probably a good experiment to see how it goes this year. Let's see how it does. The one thing that I didn't see or hear mentioned is like the participation. you're right, everyone's gonna participate because everybody, it's during the day and there's no reason not to participate. So everybody's there, so this is the time, if you're going to do that transition deal, which you should all be working on all year long, it would be a good opportunity to do that. So I see the benefits of that, and so I would be willing to, okay, let's try something, especially coming out of COVID. Corona, we've hit the reset button on many different things. Let's hit the reset button on this and see what happens. Again, folks, I've heard this told to me 150 times. We've always done it that way. I've heard board members say that, and that's not the excuse of why we should continue to do it. So if we have to be willing to change a little bit, and that's why I would give it a try, even though. Yes,
I
Pastor?
just wanted to see, Dr. Kobe, what about doing a survey about morning or evening for as the actual recognition?
We can,
Just to see
absolutely.
what the parents
We can
say.
explore
So
that.
we'll get a pretty
Sure.
good feel of what time would be better
you
for
can-
that part of it.
Bad idea.
We could.
That will help us
That-
with, you
right.
know, being able to say we gave opportunity for input from the parents.
And I think an evening, during the day, to Dr. Ashton's point, during the day secured absolutely more participation by students, but also less disruption to the learning environment. You know, from a Northridge perspective, because we had students missing school to go get hair done and nails and makeup,
No.
and so we were, and I need a suit and things. So, you know, that was another consideration.
look
was
good.
If I know they look great, but this
It
is
is-
another
It
consideration.
is
that
an amazing night.
if it is during the day.
You know what I'm talking about. They look good. Okay, any other questions or comments? If not, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Terry,
Yes.
Mrs. Schrader,
Yes.
Elder Park,
Yes.
Pastor Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Holland,
Yes.
Mr. Easton,
Yes.
Dr. Ashton.
Yes, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
7-0, imagine.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 8, calendars. Always our favorite topic. We change it every meeting.
Oh my goodness, and we, I guess, sorry, good evening.
Yeah.
John Hart, Assistant Superintendent for Elementary Education. Last board meeting, we did bring the calendar for revision. We accidentally left off Election Day for the 22-23 school year, so that was added to the calendars. And during review, it was also brought to our attention that fall break with Northeast and the traditional calendar did not line up. So that change has also been made. So whenever, we complain about having a first reading and a final reading, I will remember that there's good reason for that. So I ask for your approval of the 22-23 school calendars
With Election Day
with Election Day.
and the aligned fall break.
Absolutely.
So we can all be off together and go to Disney World.
Or the Cover Bridge Festival,
Oh, that's right.
whichever.
Okay. put that
And
on.
we can all vote. Right, Mrs. Halloran?
Correct, Mr. Hart. Everybody goes vote.
I'd love to have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
And a second? I have a second? Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Schrader,
Yes.
Elder Park,
Yes.
Mr. Easton,
Yes.
Mrs. Holland,
Yes.
Pastor Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Terry,
Yes.
and Dr. Ashton.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very
I'm
much.
grateful.
See you next time. Just saying. That brings us to item number 9, policies, one of our favorite things also. Press Policy 107. Are you gonna do this?
So this is actually the second review of this
You're correct, so we're gonna approve it this
that we're
evening.
gonna go through.
Unless we don't, but we will.
So there is a new press policy, happy news, to come to after that, that affects 50 separate policies, outside of this one. So we have some additional work ahead of us. I would recommend that we do a policy committee, meeting for that one. It's districts are talking about it and it's quite substantial. But this one ahead of us is, pretty much a more straightforward one.
Well, we're not gonna do that committee meeting in the next week or two. I'm
No,
gonna tell that
no.
right now.
No, no.
So just,
But that one is gonna take a lot more time and attention, and
yeah.
That's one of the primary functions of the Board of Education. I'd like us to.
Okay, we're doing it tonight, and we're doing
No,
it
not
tonight.
this one. The new one that just came out.
Yeah.
Outside of 107.
We're doing our responsibility of approving this though, too.
That one too.
Say, any questions or do I have a motion to approve 107?
Motion, yes.
Did I hear one? Do I have a second? Thank you. Because you know I can't hear, so speak up. Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I have a question. I think I asked when we had our first reading of this, is this a new policy? An updated policy? I didn't notice any particular changes to the policy marked in red. So, is it new?
No, so these are amendments, and Lakeisha actually gave a prior to this one, the first one we gave you a side-by-side
Yes.
of all the line changes, so that you could see them.
So it's not new.
So
it's
this one
changed.
accepted all the changes that we gave you last time.
Okay.
Okay. 107. Roll call vote, please.
Mrs. Schreider,
Yes.
Elder Park,
Yes.
Mr. Easton,
Yes.
Mrs. Pierce,
Yes.
Mrs. Holler,
No.
Pastor Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Atkins.
Yes, motion passes 6-1. We will look forward to the policy committee looking for the, going through the next policy. So we have some work ahead of us. That brings us to item 10.
9B.
What happened to 9B?
Oh, 9B, remote education policy, our first reading. Pay attention, everybody.
Good evening, Board. My name is Mary Ellen Bunton. I'm the Director of Curriculum. And tonight I have for you a policy that we'd like to consider adding into all of our policies, and that is a remote education policy, which should not be confused with the e-learning plan that will be coming next. A remote education policy allows us to deliver instruction to students remotely on a full-time basis. And not in an emergency situation. So the reason that we are looking at this particular policy is because we have a special situation we'd like to address, and this policy allows us to do that. So what you have in front of you in the policy is what we'd like to put, or what you have, or what we would like to put in policy that would outline the framework. And the very nice part about this too is not only will this let us start with a small course essentially, it will allow us to grow our remote program over time, but we have the structure to do it by putting it in the policy.
Let's read first.
It's a first reading.
Just first reading, so we could just ask you some questions right off the bat because.
I would be happy to answer questions.
Well, I'll be more than glad to ask some.
Yes.
When you say grow over time, are you looking at the size and scope like really micro small now, and then in the next year or two, or what do your or 5-year plan?
I think that this initial plans, that the reason that we wanted to look at this is because there's a very specific group of students that would significantly benefit from this. So, and it's
Small.
good to start small because that allows us to understand how it works, to work out the kinks, and to make adjustments before we would get too big and jump into something large. So I think what we were sort of thinking as need arises, then we could implement courses as we go. So if we started, for example, with a 5th and 6th grade group, then maybe next year, if we saw a need elsewhere, a group of students that would need this type of situation, then we could add on to that program based on creating almost like different courses. So like little mini courses all the way through, but by course, I mean their whole day. So it would just be different enrollments, different pods of students needing different environments for education.
So, any other questions?
Yes.
You think? Go ahead, I'll come back.
Okay. Under number 3 of the educational program policy, it talks about providing instructors that meet the teacher qualifications. So who oversees those teachers, and do they have other classroom responsibilities as well?
So it would work just like a normal school system. This almost becomes like a school within a school. So depending on the situation would be which administrator was in charge of them. So they would still be assigned an administrator. They would have very similar duties to an in-class, like an in-person teacher. And they could still participate in extracurriculars. They could still do all of those things that a regular, like a typical in-person teacher does. But it would depend on how, this is very general, so we can fit lots of scenarios into it. So it would depend on the scenario as to who was in charge and what those specific duties would look like. But the classroom instruction piece would be just very similar to what goes on in a in-person classroom. They're still responsible for grading, for assessment, for attendance, for parent-teacher conferences, for IEPs and 504s and all of those things. Lesson planning, delivery of instruction, I think I said grading, but if I didn't, grading. Participating in professional development. So they're all still part of those things, but how we set it up makes it difficult to be specific about who would be in charge of them and what other duties they might have.
Well, my thought is that if it's a small group of students that we're starting with, and we're short certified staff, therein lies my concern.
Yes, and so I think some of the adjustments that we've made recently and some of the support that we've had from folks that are able to provide instruction to students that aren't in a typical teaching position are allowing us to do this in that situation, and why we can't expand this greatly at the moment because of the teacher shortage. So that's why if we kind of try it like this, then we might be able to find ways to make those situations work and expand it.
Can you,
Thank you.
can you give a layperson scenario that would happen?
Okay, so for, yes, I can. So for example, am I okay to? So if we have a group of students that are really struggling, like for example, our alternative program is like a 6 through 12 kind of situation, 7 through 12 situation. If we had students that were younger than that needed an alternative setting, then they would be able to participate in this program, but we could start with a small group to see how that situation would work.
Okay.
Mrs. Button, I had another question.
Yes.
It refers to an opportunity for qualifying students to participate.
Yes.
So I'm guessing this is probably beyond our traditional view of alternative and more. I know during when we were complete virtual, we did determine that there were some students that really
Yes.
thrived in that environment. So that this might give those students the opportunity to have a virtual experience as opposed to a traditional classroom experience. Is
Yes.
that also what we're looking for here?
Yes, and so if you look at, even number 4, it talks about like that the time of day can be different. So if we have situations where students might need to help family and they're employed, but they still would like to go to school, then we can adjust their school day. It gives us a little more flexibility. And then for those students that excel too, and if you look at number 7, A, B, C, and D all talk about that criteria. So that lets us know when we do start these programs that we also have to set criteria for particular students to be able to enroll in that program and what that particular criteria is. So it might be that if eventually we're able to start one for students that excel in a remote environment, that might be one of the criteria that they had to demonstrate at some point that they were successful in a virtual environment.
And the board just needs to be aware of the fact, currently you don't have a remote learning board policy at all on the books. The first step in creating any type of, and we've talked about how we know students do well, the board must adopt a policy stating you want remote programs, and this is a very general policy that allows us to build at our pace, our speed, based on our staffing, as Mrs. Halloran pointed out, those pieces.
And one of the requirements too is that the students that are in these programs have a specific learning plan that's tied just to them. And so it really details exactly what that student needs to be able to move on to be supported, that type of situation. And the parent has to sign off on it, has to be part of those meetings.
So who is the overall hierarchy last person up on the top of the totem pole for this program? You?
Yes, I believe so, that it would be, but I mean, ultimately, it would be Dr. Geddes and.
I know that, but they aren't
Yes.
going to like monitor the program every day
It would
and
be
make
me.
sure that curriculum happens. Is that
Yeah,
you?
that's
Is
me.
your plate full enough to be able to do this?
You know what? I am good with a full plate. I have a lot of support in my office that was evidenced in the last month with the situation in my personal life and how they stepped up and took care of things so I could take care of my family. And so I have the supports in place to be able to do that. Certainly, I would always welcome more support, but I also understand that by doing that, that also creates a vacancy in a classroom or in an administrative position.
No, we could find something somewhere else maybe too.
Yeah.
Don't think of it that way. We have to pull in from somewhere.
Yeah.
Our field is open.
So you're saying if we didn't have to pull, you would welcome the support?
Absolutely.
We know that.
Yes.
And we know that, but we're not gonna do it right now because we need to get the program
Yeah.
started and we're doing it small.
I just
But
have
I
one-
want it to be successful.
Right.
And I want it to be inclusive and adaptable to many different directions.
Right.
Because as we start this, we're gonna find out that we wanna go in a different direction.
Absolutely.
Because I already hear a couple things that are troubling to me that in the initial part that I'm gonna go, okay, when this gets going, we'll give you a little more nudge in maybe a different direction. But I eventually see that this may have to be monitored or like it's a school within a school. We may have a virtual, the czar. We'll have
Right.
a new czar.
Mm-hmm.
So,
My
not this
only
year, but
question,
in the
I just
future.
have a question on the program delivered by the district in a location outside of a school. Who determines the location?
Well, that's part of when the family sits down and works on this, that essentially what that means is that the kids can stay at home and learn. And or if they need a place in the community to go to be able to participate, or if we have an alternative site. But really, it's about not having to come to a brick and mortar building. So that's part of the plan that we'll put together with the parents and with each facet of setting this up.
But it could be that you have 15 people, 6 people meeting for school outside of a district property in the same building. Who picks the building? That's still a question.
I think that would be something that we'd have to determine if that was necessary. And I think, again, that would probably fall a little bit like on your shoulders on the board's shoulders because of liability, like insurance, like all those types of things. Because when we do have students that meet in different buildings, as we learned when we worked through the Canon situation, is that not all buildings are suitable for students to be present in.
Right.
So that's another, like, until we know the scenario, it's hard to know how to answer that question.
Okay.
But you have addressed a problem that we have
Mm-hmm.
for young students especially. And so, thank you for the effort. That's something we asked you to do, and boy, it didn't take you long to work on it. Thank you.
No problem.
And I look forward to the next time because I'm sure we'll have more questions. And if they do, they can contact you and offer any, if we have something that we'd like to share or ask. I mean, we have time between now and then, board members, to call her and
Absolutely.
contact her, email her, either way, and get your questions answered. That'd be great. Okay, anything else? That's it?
She's here for another. She is the next one as well.
Yeah, okay.
No learning days in lieu of.
10A.
10A? Well,
We're done with that.
yeah. That's one. Remote learning days.
Yes, so, the state has differentiated between a remote learning plan, which is a virtual school, to, e-learning days, which we would use if, for example, we're gonna get 25 below wind chills, it's too cold for the kids to come to school, then we could do a virtual e-learning day. in lieu of an emergency day so the kids can keep learning since they can't be outside when it's super cold. And then we don't have to extend the school year because the best learning kind of takes place at the middle. It's really hard to make up that time at the end. So this would allow us to do that. And so there's a process in order to adopt these, or there's a process that we have to go through. And I think we might just make it under the wire before those, if we were to adopt this, before those days hit in January. Hopefully they won't come till January. So, and it's very similar to the plan that we used with lots of updates based on what we learned when we did our remote days. So it would just be in lieu of emergency days. And what we've kind of discussed is that the very interesting part about this, and a very good part for our students, is that if we do these days, we still are responsible to feed our students, which we love to do. So we would have to be able to, we would not want to ask our staff to come out in a dangerous situation. So we need to be able to apply these situations when we're able to get the food to the students the night before. So in predictable weather. So it might be that if we have snow days, those snow days that, all of a sudden we were supposed to get 2 inches and then we get 14 and it comes at 5 o'clock in the morning, we can't get food to the students on those days. So on those days, it would be an emergency day and we would make those up at the end. But a cold day that we know is coming, because they very much ahead of time, and typically those days are called the night before, those days we can have food available to the students to go home with them by the end of the day. And then we could do an emergency or e-learning day the next day. So we're not taking away the really fun snow days. Unless that's something that we choose to do as a district.
Any questions?
I do. Now you're saying, but there are other, okay, I guess I'm a little confused.
It's tricky, because
Yeah,
there's two
because
different.
there are some districts that totally remove from using a snow day. And they use I don't wanna say
E-learning day.
It
e-learning
is.
day.
Mm-hmm.
So how do they get around the food?
They don't. They're not supposed to, and they will report it. By school code, you are required to give meals
Okay,
in order to use the e-learning day. Those districts violated the policy and were reprimanded by the State Board of Education.
okay. That answers my question.
I have two things. Number one, I think this is great. And I am excited about the prospect of us not having to extend school. And I take it this is for any emergency closure where we can get food to the students the day
Actually,
before.
it is only for the closures that we would typically use for weather, like those, for whatever an emergency day, which is an official policy, an official situation by the state school board. We can use them in those situations. We can't apply them whenever we want.
So in a situation where perhaps, and I don't even want to talk about it, but let's say we had a horrible rash of COVID cases in a building, and so that one building had to be shut down. Would this apply for them?
That's a different type of a day that
That's
we
a
would
different
have
day.
to use. This is just for the emergency days.
Okay, so that's not considered an emergency day?
It
But
has
we
a
would-
different name.
Okay, so we'll cross that bridge. Definitely. Okay.
Hopefully, we won't have to.
So I guess my other point is to Dr. Geddes. Do you think that this will cause us to have, instead of the 6 o'clock in the morning waiting to see if if school is canceled, will this put more pressure on the person who has to call the day to do
That's
it?
me.
To do it. Oh, that's you. To do it the day before, and how will that change the decision-making process for us to be able to, just, how will that change your decision-making process?
So my practice has been in my 7 years, if I know in advance, before the threshold was like -25, I'm probably a -15 person. And depending on how the roads or the wind, etc. If I know that's coming, I call those the day before. If they're iffy and the county superintendents are usually up on the phone about 2. And so we're waiting to see if it changes, because the only time we really have to wait is when the news is saying maybe between 8 and 7 it'll be this. It's that tricky bus situation because my first baby goes to the bus stop about 6-ish. And so I need to know what that wind chill temperature will be at that 6 o'clock hour. That's the difficulty in trying to call that when they make the change right there close to the pickup time.
Sounds like this might make it less difficult then because you have the ability to know that the students will get fed the next day and we'll have the e-learning instruction.
Yeah, it'll add another layer to us. Honestly, my practice will probably be the same because I like to give parents that advance notice. We like to we feed our kids anyway. We try to send that food home anyway. So for District 118, it'll be very different, but we won't have to use the days and add them at the end. That probably will be the only difference for District 118 because my practice has been so different, particularly as it relates to weather. I wish it would be easier, but it's not. Thank you for asking. Though.
Yeah, we want school in session every day that we possibly can have school in session because we do realize that the disruption in everybody's life when we call a day like that. So we would like to err on, we're going to be in school, okay? But if we're not gonna be in school, because it was a terrible day, not because and no offense, not because we have this option that we could go to, it's nice to have it. But it's not the fallback thing like, oh, let's just do the remote day, it's kind of close. No, let's go in school because it really is a huge disruption to switch. To me, I'm thinking, the logistics, okay, you're all gonna be remote today. Really? Hey, teachers, what's that like, right? You didn't plan on that last night, so, yeah, I like the default is that we try and stay in school, which you do. So we will continue to do so.
Unless it's too cold for the babies to stand outside.
You don't need anything from us because it was just permission to
display.
So you permitted it.
Yes, there's the lovely program verification form, so we're working through the steps of that.
Here for discipline. Can somebody check?
So this will allow us
That
to
was my text
display it.
message.
Everything okay?
I think the parent was here for a discipline case. It may have come late.
Oh.
So that's why I wanted someone to check.
Yeah, okay. They'll take care of that. Okay. Okay, bring us to item 11.
Okay.
Educational support grant review. A grant summary report.
Good evening, Board of Education and Dr. Geddes. I'm Kelly Truex, Director of Educational Support Programs. And while Annette's pulling up our presentation, I do have a fiscal year 22 quarterly grant summary report for you. Since the grant world has exploded, as you've seen, Dr. Geddes asked me to do a quarterly report for you so that you can see what our expenditure dates are and what percentage is left for spending. Some grants are not open. The Illinois Empower Grant just opened this week, and
Thank
we
you.
will have a new homeless grant coming soon. So there's always more money.
Thank you.
Yay.
Not always.
Not always.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no, we've been here long enough. There have been dry spells.
There have, but this year,
This is a good year.
this is a good year.
The promises of last year were great.
So you can see basically it's set up with what fiscal year, and we are working in 3 different fiscal years right now. The first CARES grant was in fiscal year 20. It is just now finishing up, but then they created a fiscal year 22 grant for the leftover amount, and you'll see that in just a minute. And then fiscal year 21 is CARES Digital, ESSER 2, GEAR, those things, and they're getting ready to close as well. And then we're working in fiscal year 22 right now. So right now, in grants, we're doing about 3 different fiscal years. So I also have Lindsay Nixon here, and she's going to go over the special ed grant slides. And then Brandy Kuchetsky is not with us, but she does our Title III grant, which is our English learner grant. So we'll go through quickly. I believe you've all seen this. But we'll start with just each grant, the budget allocation, and just a summary of what we spend the money on. So in preschool for all, that's a 5-year grant, and that money stays the same for 5 years. I believe next year we'll be writing for the new grant. It's $2.758 million, and almost $6 million pays for the salaries and benefits for the teachers, the teaching assistants, subs, instructional coaches, everybody that works in the preschool program. That is a 100% grant-funded program.
And then we have 1.16, almost 164,940 in county school preschool expenditures. So you will see that we do have expenses to the county schools. We are the fiscal agent for the county pre-K program. So I work with the superintendents. We go out and talk with each one of them. They provide us with a budget, and they have so much money to run their pre-K program through our department. And then Preschool for All Expansion is our program that's at Edison. That is $339,000. That one is our full day pre-K. We have 3 classrooms with 3 teachers, 3 teaching assistants, a half-time instructional coach, family liaison. Most of that money goes for salaries and benefits. They are required to have a mental health consultant contract and that works with families, and then around $12,000 for instructional supplies. And you can stop me anytime if you have questions. Prevention Initiative is our Birth to 3 program, and we receive $351,975 for that. All Birth to 5 programs are usually a 3 to 5 year grant. So we get the same amount of money each year, and as salaries raise, that would take the supply level down. So next year, I believe we'll be starting a new grant for that. So the salaries and benefits for the 4 parent educators and the central intake coordinators, $321,623. And then they have about $6,000 left over that they do with their home visiting groups and play groups materials.
I did have a question, Ms. Drax. On the, back to the first grant, the Preschool for All, and then the Preschool for All expansion. I heard you say that the expansion grant was for the all-day preschool. Is there anything that's keeping the first grant, the larger grant, from being applied to an all-day preschool?
Yes, that is only a half-day program. So the guidelines of the Preschool for All grant are a half-day program. The Preschool for All expansion grant is for a full-day program.
Okay.
So each grant has guidelines that we have to follow.
It just seemed like that was such a need in our community for full day, and it would be great to find a way to be able to.
And that was a new grant that started what, Mr. Hart, probably 2-3 years ago. So it's a new thing with the state. So I look for that to probably expand when we rewrite.
Okay.
But I recommend what we could do in this season, as we've analyzed class sizes and realized that first grant can handle 20 students per teacher, and we're not at capacity, we could actually merge some classes, and then the district could absorb to do 3 additional pre-K, all-day pre-K classes, which our community really needs, and certainly we do have the money to do so. We're examining that a little more, and we'll be prepared to bring that to you probably at the next board meeting.
Fabulous. Okay, thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's no problem. Let's see, I think McVee is next. So McVee is $188,324. That's maternal, infant, early childhood home visiting. They are doing the exact same jobs as Prevention Initiative. However, we do participate with the McVee grant, and the salaries and benefits are for 1 parent educator, 1 central intake coordinator, a half-time bookkeeper. They do have summer hours because our home visiting programs will go in the summer, and they have $25,000 in supplies right now, and they do use those supplies. We can take McVee money to do supplies for all of our families. It doesn't just have to be our PI families. So those grants kind of work together. They're 2 separate entities, but all of that money goes for that Birth to 3 program. Also, mental health consultant contract is required for that grant, mileage, cell phone minutes, and professional development. So now we have Title III. This is Brandy Kuchevsky's grant, $15,810, and that's for English learners. She spends $3,000 for after-school tutoring, EL family literacy nights, PD. She usually does a book study with her teachers, and about $3,000 in supplies. She was able to do our benchmark curriculum, our reading curriculum. Benchmark Literacy has an EL development packet, and she was able to purchase those materials so that it connects with their core curriculum in the classroom. Book study books,
then a lot of assessment models, Rosetta Stone, and then as all title grants, our non-public allocation is $1,445, and that's Title III. The first CARES grant. This was a fiscal year 20 grant, and it was 3.5 million. And we now have, that money was supposed to be spent by September 30th, and I had told Dr. Geddes I had it all spent, and then the state decided that they were going to extend that. And so my last expenditure report, now I have to rewrite into a new grant. So there was $38,000 left that I had to rewrite into a new grant that we pretty much already have in open POs. So what we have is IT licenses. This is mostly Annette. Anything under $500, supplies, and non-public has almost $2,600 left to spend in that grant.
What do you mean by non-public?
Non-public schools. We are required to participate with non-public schools. With grants, we send a consultation form out. We meet, Cindy Redmond is our non-public school liaison, but we do have meetings with them, and they can either accept the money or they can deny the money. And we have 3 non-public schools that accept our title funds. And
Who are
that would
they?
be, pardon?
Who are they?
Schlarman, Danville Christian Academy, and Trinity. We used to work with Danville Lutheran, however, they're preschool only now, so that's why we don't work with them. So those are our 3 non-public schools that participate in the title grant funding. And they were also offered funding through CARES, but not ESSER 2 and 3. They have their own grant for ESSER 2 and 3. Any more questions about non-public?
This does not apply to homeschool.
No, this is only non-public private schools. They have to they turn into me their enrollment, and they're low income, they're free and reduced. I sit down with them, we go over that. They get money based on those numbers. They have guidelines they have to meet, so we meet with them on those guidelines and what they can spend the money on.
So when they purchase equipment like laptops, so you purchase those laptops, right?
Well,
For them.
We cannot write a check to Schlarman or to Trinity. They have to run the money through us. So we are actually the fiscal agent for that. So like I work with Annette, with Karen Peterson. If they want 40 laptops, then Karen gets me a quote. We do the PO. We have them delivered there. They have to be marked that they are property of Danville School District, but purchased with title funds. So if we do get audited and we go to a non-public school, they have to provide us, where are you keeping these materials?
Thank
With
you.
all materials.
Thank you.
Anything else on non-public?
Nope, I just wanted to explain why sometimes you see laptops at Schlarman that have Danville District 118.
Yes. Anything like that, we have to mark
Because they're property of Danville District.
because they are property of us. Okay, Title I. Title I, $4.4 million. And we use that that's $4 to $5 million is what we end up getting every year in Title I. And that does not include the carryover. In January, we will be receiving carryover, and that's another whole story, I guess. We have 15.
But it's worth telling, because sometimes districts
Yes.
don't use all their money.
Yes.
And the state will reallocate those funds.
That's what happens.
And it's a random formula that they choose.
The thing with grants is they are always changing, always, and they're always amending. I'm constantly amending the grants because in January we'll receive money that other districts did not take. We will also we are allowed to carry over 15% carryover in title grants. The last 2 years we've been able to carry 100% over. So that's why you may see a big jump with our carryover this year, because they knew we couldn't spend it all through COVID. So they allowed us to carry over more money. But with grants, you have to be so diligent in watching what you spend, because if you don't spend it, you will lose it. And if you don't spend it all, you have to give it back if it's preschool.
But
And
I was just going to add that it does pay to be in favor with ISB.
Yes.
When it comes to the allocation
yes,
of their.
I said many times
And they can-
before, the principal consultant and I are on a very, first name basis. I talk to her all the time. Matter of fact, I talked to her today. But you do have to be very diligent in what you're spending, which is why we have this quarterly summary report, and we also have budget sheets for every building, and it's pretty extensive. So salaries and stipends and benefits in Title I, this is for instructional tutors. A lot of this are our retired teachers. Retired teachers come back and tutor for us, avid tutors, grants coordinator. We have really utilized our retired teachers this year, which has been fabulous. Now, when you see building supplies at $310,000, that is district-wide, but each building gets money based on their enrollment. Purchase services, 1.2 million. A lot of this is Mary Ellen. I say, Mary Ellen, wait till we get to Title II. That's all Mary Ellen. But Destiny Library, these are things that we use as a district. So Destiny, Frontline for our evaluation, Screencastify, you can see supplemental math and reading. Our tech leases, it was about $900,000 for tech leases, just so you know. We update those every year and pay for those tech leases.
So, Mr. X, what's the difference between Title I and Title III? Like,
Okay.
what is?
Well,
what
Title
do they
I
mean?
is for low-income, at-risk students, and it's a site-based thing. So all buildings receive so much money, they have their own budget, and they have autonomy on what they want to spend, but it has to connect to their school improvement plan. So I work with them on their school improvement plan to make sure that what we're buying, if Southview has a math goal, then we buy math materials. If Northridge has a reading goal, we buy reading materials. So there are just so many different allowable expenses that you can't, and guidelines you have to follow. So that's Title I. Title II is for teachers. Title I, look at it this way, that's for students. Title II is for teachers. That's PD, recruitment, retention. Title III is English learners. Title IV is safety and technology. And CTE. Other things, well-rounded, music, CTE, fine arts, which we have really bumped up a lot with fine arts. I'm getting ready to meet with them for summer program. But that goes with Title IV. So this is purchase service, our online things that we do with Title I, and this is for all students. We do put PD. You can put a percentage of your amount in Title I for professional development. This is where I put the stipends for the summer PD as far as open gyms when the teachers come in and work, stipends for AVID and leadership teams, AVID building contracts, AVID path training, and PD. I kind of put all of AVID in Title I because it's just cleaner for me. Homeless and Title I delinquent set-asides, we are required to put aside at least $500 for each of these. And then summer school right now, I have that at $191,000. That will not cover our summer school expenses. I always keep that low. And then when we get the carryover, we amend and we put all the carryover usually into summer school. Parent and family, our 15 home program interventionists are in the Title I grant. Any stipends for after-hour events, for family events, communication materials, supplies, and then non-public allocation is $144,640. Title II, again, that's for teachers. $406,553. This is for stipends for staff PD, new teacher. This usually that goes with our new teacher collaborative group. Mary Ellen and I work on the new, and special ed department works with the new teacher collaborative, and it's after hours. We do it monthly, so they do get a stipend for that. The instructional coaches that we have, some of our retired teachers have come back as mentors and instructional coaches to our new teachers. Their salaries or stipends and benefits go in there. Purchase services are just conferences that principals can go to. PD, that's usually like the IPA, things like that. Professional development like SMECANS, AVID, Eureka Math, Pre-K, Creative Curriculum, those kinds of things are for teachers. Mary Ellen's math instructional consultant is in there, and we pay IPA dues for administrators. And then PD supplies, $10,000. We buy all new teachers freebies for every month. And this month, they're getting the Prim book, which is, it's about a $100 book. I think it's fabulous for new teachers. It has strategies, just all kinds of strategies, research-based strategies on what to do for different things that would come up with students. And then non-public for this is $28,003. And they are allowed to do PD, but it cannot be church-based PD. So if they are going to a conference that is sponsored by their church, we have to break that out by percentage of what things they are going to, and a percentage of it we pay, and then a percentage of it they pay. Title IV is our well-rounded education, safety, and 15%, I believe, has to be spent on technology. $250,000. In the past, many times we would just take the Title IV and combine it with Title I or Title II, and we've just, or I guess it was Title I, but we have decided, Dr. Geddes asked us to do Title IV so that they can see we do want to utilize that Title IV for our well-rounded education. So she asked us to do that when she came, and we started putting Title IV as a separate grant.
Only because I didn't trust it.
Right.
When the state starts
yeah.
to merge money and then this pot disappears, I didn't trust them. No, we're gonna keep it separate.
Yeah,
So
I
they
like that
know
we keep
need
it
this
separate now.
pot.
It's cleaner for me because if we would put it all into Title I, we would not be able to necessarily use that for the fine arts and things and CTE. And we've been able to bump up that CTE program in fine arts so much in the last few years. So that was a brilliant suggestion, Dr. Geddes.
I like that word.
So the behavioral consultant that we have at the high school, her salary does come out of this because we are allowed to pay that salary out of Title IV. And then purchase services, we have orchestra tutors, the orchestra concert for all the kids, the drama and jazz summer workshops, career tech ed, OSHA. That's when Dan Heil came and said that we did a lot for them. All of that stuff comes out of this grant. And then AP tests.
Which we may not have been able to get most of this stuff had we merged it with Title I. So
We wouldn't have been
that's
able to
why
get
it's
that.
important.
That's why I said that was a good decision, because if you put it in Title I, it has to be spent on Title I things, which is reading and math. So in supplies, there's so much, we have to put aside, I put the minimum since we have so much money in ESSER for technology. This year I did the minimum. So we have $28,000 to spend on Chromebooks, Project Lead the Way materials. Seth's ID card supplies were able to go through there, and we bought new radios for KDBA, Edison, and Garfield. And then non-capital equipment, Project Lead the Way at Southview is getting flight simulators. So they're super excited about that. And then the University of Illinois workshops that we send the kids to, right now I have that as a low number, but again, I'll use that carryover and bump that up. All summer things I usually do in January. That's Title IV. And then PD, music teachers get to go. That's something that we haven't been able to do before. They went to their conference. We did a projector for professional development in, I believe it was the music department. And then non-public gets $17,000. Okay, Title I school improvement, that's Illinois Empower. You've heard us talk about Illinois Empower. This grant just opened up. This is very specific. The last 2 years, we were able to carry over. Normally, you cannot carry over. If you don't spend it, you lose it. It's $451,000. And the 5 buildings that we have that are targeted and comprehensive have their own budgets for this. There is not any money here that is a district. This is strictly to those buildings. So I work with those buildings. They have a separate budget. Again, they have requirements that are for Illinois Empower, like a monitoring piece. We just did that. It has to connect to their Illinois Empower plan. So many of them have done extended day. That's been huge, and summer tutoring. So there's stipends and benefits for that. They're able to try new things. Chris Rice has tried a ton of new things. So he likes having that Illinois Empower money because he has the autonomy to do that. So Brain Pop, Learning A to Z, Newsella, and then instructional supplies. A lot of them use it for Avid, and we are able to do social emotional learning materials with this. The PD on this is strictly for those buildings. However, those buildings can invite our other buildings to their PD. So we try to get the most out of this PD by having everyone involved. And then there's one home program interventionist at Mead Park. They have parent virtual events, materials for homeschool connections, parent and family, and then their learning partners. They are required to have learning partners. Our learning partners are Avid and Illinois Association of School Superintendents, which is the ROE. And then we have like school improvement plan monitoring and support. Okay, Title I delinquent is the juvenile detention center. And we work with Mr. Coker on this. And he receives $49,897. And he's real good about spending his money. I just give him a budget. He sends what he wants back. We create the POs. And so he gets 20,000 in supplies, 29 in purchase services. We were not allowed to pay for their internet any longer, so they did have to pick that cost up. But we can buy all of their technology equipment. He does go to PD as well. Usually he went to Avid. This is ESSER 2. I'm trying to get through this quickly. I know you said 10 minutes. $14 million in ESSER 2. And we've gone over ESSER 2. These are all the things that we are spending on ESSER 2 money. I will be amending that very soon, though, because we're ready for amendment. So instructional health purchase service, we have $1 million on that. That's a lot of Mary Ellen as well. Letters, phonics, but she is supposed to be spending that money. Hotspots, a lot of technology. To ESSER 2 is for hybrid learning. ESSER 3 is for in-person. So $1 million on the PBIS supplies, iPads for special ed. We replaced a ton of musical instruments because we did not get them back or they were broken. Just a lot of things that people were wanting we were able to get. And then non-cap equipment, we did storage cabinets so the kids could have their own little cubby to separate out for COVID. And we did the community engagement van. We did Surface Books for administrators because they didn't have laptops when we worked from home. And smart boards and orchestra equipment. We bought cellos and lots of stuff. Technology, license and warranties, and you can see we replaced phones, docking stations, PD, Dr. Ablon came, the social emotional speaker, letters training, food service. She was able to buy some food sealers, picnic tables. We bought lunchroom tables. And then $10 million is there for the HVAC for Northridge, Southview, and Mark Denman. I think it's now 12 million, so I'll be amending that. And then finally, we have the American Rescue Plan, ESSER 3, $32 million, and that's what we've been talking about with our facilities. That grant is submitted, however, I have not been able to do the amendment on that because we were getting ready to make more decisions on that. So I will be doing that amendment soon. And obviously 20% of that is reserved. It's mandated that we reserve $7 million. These are the things that Mary Ellen has gone over with her team and with our district instructional leadership team. And then this is what Building and Grounds would use for facilities. And then there's a link to the facilities presentation. And then IDEA, that's special ed.
Hello. IDEA Preschool is covering the early childhood special education classrooms and training for personnel. So we have about $43,000 for the non-certified TA. Per the grant, we have to spend at least up to 5% on professional development. And then we have about $1,700 on supplies and materials for that. And then we have the flow through. So the purpose of that is to identify special education, develop and implement those IEPs, and then of course focusing on educating special education students in that general ed curriculum to the best of our ability. That's about 1.5 million. It encompasses 40 TAs, some administrative personnel with secretaries, and a retired teacher coming back to help us there in the office. Professional development again, it's about 30,000. And then we also have the requirement of the non-public proportionate share. Not only is that non-public schools, but it is also homeschool students as well. So they have an opportunity to meet with us at least once a year if they have concerns. We do have a child fine obligation for homeschool and private schools. Covers our case membership for our vision and hearing itinerant teachers so they can get professional development and mentoring, audiologist services out at VASE, and then supplies and materials, about $45,000. Testing kits takes up a lot of that, ink, technology, anything that students might need for accommodations. And then we do contract some service with health services consultants. We have 2 CODAs, which is occupational therapy assistants, and then 2 speech pathologists to help us cover our needs. And then the special education district budget. So it is a requirement that the district must prove the maintenance of effort. So the district must spend at least, or if not more, of local funding prior to expending the IDA budget. And that's about 12.1 million. And that does encompass our teachers, psychologists, social work, speech, staff members. We have about 51 non-certified staff, which is your TAs and your school nurses, and then our substitutes as well. Tuition for our residential students. We are reimbursed for that. Currently this year, it's at 77%. The past few years, though, it has been about 93 to 94%, so we are seeing a decrease in that reimbursement for those students. And then about $30,000 for our homebound teachers, for some of our students that are placed on homebound through the IEP. Oh, that's it.
And all
Yeah, that was short and sweet.
and I would just like to finish by saying what I usually tell the buildings, and we want to spend grant money first. We want to always look at our grant money first and spend that, and then go to your district or your building budget. As you can see right now, we have about almost $62 million in grant money. So
That we
it's a-
receive from, so I want to reiterate that, because that's $62 million that we received from the State Board of Education.
Yes.
When people talk about the hoops we jumped through for them,
Oh.
it is because we received $62 million from them, and that's important.
And the
That-
hoops are big.
And that controls a lot of salaries in our district, so it is important that we meet their regulations.
So any questions about our grants?
Very thorough.
Thank you.
Questions? Comments?
I just think you've done a really great job putting that together. It's
Thank
very,
you.
very easy for me to follow, so thank you.
Thank you.
Plus, it's a lot of work.
It is a
You
lot
look
of
at all
work.
that you do.
We have a great system in place in my department, and I have great people in my department. So, but it is a lot of monitoring. So we're always busy, but that's okay.
A terrific idea, a great update. Seriously, that we keep our fingers on the pulse of the money, on grant money. Because it's one of those things that we discuss all the time. This is the grant here, this is the grant here, this is the grant here. But I don't know about the rest of the board members. I'm sure they probably had a better idea. But I'm going, have an idea of how much money each of these grants is and where we're at right now. This is really great information. And to see where we're going. Obviously, it's pivotal because we're making SO3 decisions and going forth, which was one of the questions. That we met all of our deadlines, or at least within the timeframes of our deadlines, correct?
Yes, we did. I mean, we can get, we have until December to put a plan, but just remember with SR3, we can make changes. That's the thing about grants, you can't amend.
Yeah.
So, but you can thank Dr. Geddes for the quarterly report. That was her suggestion, and I really did like it at first I was kind of like, why are we doing this? And then once I did it, I thought, oh, this makes sense, because then I could see it all on one page.
Right.
So.
That's it. As we're going through it, I'm going, oh, wow, oh, dude, look at this.
Yeah.
But I'm going, it really does hit home and going, wow, look at all the, first of all, several things occurred as I was watching that. Number one, the money and the different things that we have, and thank goodness for the grant writers and that the government giving us this opportunity to get this money, and that we can get this. But also all the programs that have been funded, that we see, okay, the home interventionist, we have all the professional development, all these things that are going on, you know, that have to happen to make this district work. And it's a lot of pieces in the pie that come together, not just from the finances of our state tax dollars or whatever else, or money. I mean, this is a huge benefit for the district.
They talk about that a lot at the title directors meeting, how you're kind of in the background and you're that person that no one really understands what you do, but you do make a big impact. I will say Dr. Jacoby said it best. She says grants are what you wish for, not what you need. And when she told me that, that just put it into perspective for me. And so when I do talk with principals, it's like, okay, it's not something we have to have, it's something we want, which is what we do with grant money.
And one other thing, and I think you pointed, it was brought up about the documentation for these, and you brought this. I don't think a lot of people realize that how much documentation is, because when I hear for some of these grants, or even if you're on a board somewhere else and you hear what you have to go through to get a grant doing something else. But with these grants, there's a lot of documentation that has to be, and collaboration and justification, and then who knows, they might audit the grant later. There's all sorts of things. So there's a lot of strings that have to be met as we go on with this. So we do realize that there's a lot of work, and we certainly do appreciate it. So thank
Grant
you.
reports are due next month, so we'll be doing that.
Well, and it's not just, it's a lot of you people working together.
It is.
I mean, it's, you know, you're doing the talking, but there's a lot of people out there that had to put this together to get it happen.
The collaborative event.
That's enough talking. Sorry. What are we in now?
The levy discussion.
Tax levy. One of our another favorite discussions. We're just hitting all of them this evening. Must be getting to the end of the year. Must be almost turkey time.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Geddes, Danville 118 family. I am Narcissus Rankin, Director of Business and Finance. And I am here today with a recommendation for our levy. So this year, the county assessor has estimated our equalized assessed value for this 2021 calendar year at $351,788,738. So this tax revenue will make up our money for next school year, which is the 22-23 school year. This number would be an increase of approximately 3.189% in the total EAV amount. So I'm just going to tell you guys, the EAV is calculated by multiplying the equalization rate by the property value of the homes and businesses within the district. So I am recommending that we levy for a 4.99 increase in the restricted funds, and we levy for the same dollar amount as last year in the non-restricted funds.
Well, you brought it right up to the 4.9.
Yes. So I just don't want us to lose out on money because the levy is an estimate, right? This dollar amount that he gave us is about 3.189%. So that's his estimate. We're only going to get whatever the EAV ends up being. We're only going to get what's due to us based off of that. I just don't want it to be more than what he estimated, because if we levy for less, then we don't get that money. We lose it.
We understand that.
So what you're saying is, if you levied for 3 point something and there was more money, we wouldn't get it because we didn't
We're only
levy
going to get
for it?
what we asked for.
Okay.
So the levy is the ask, and then once it's calculated, then the extension will be what we actually receive.
So it's the safest of all numbers to cover our tracks. Okay, and we levy for need in those three?
Yes. And I'm also requesting that we abate taxes the same as we did last year.
And do we know what the EAV is for sure? Do we know the solid number?
No, we won't know.
We don't know
until,
that yet.
Like not until like March.
Okay.
Because
That was
it's
my
for
question
this
is when do we
calendar
know?
year. Yes, for this
Okay.
year. So yes.
I was gonna say, did you get any preliminary indication? I didn't hear.
Well, the assessor, that was what he estimated. That was
Yeah.
the number
He sends
that he gave us.
Yeah, these are all your questions. You can answer
I'm,
every single one.
did
But
everybody knows me? I'm trying to leave my team alone and let them
I was
handle
gonna
it.
say, you should let.
I am
I know you can
trying.
answer every one of these questions, but leave her alone.
I'm leaving it alone.
Ms. Rankin, I
Okay,
have a
she's
question.
doing fine.
Can
They
you
all did a
explain
great
what
job today.
abating, you recommend that we abate the taxes? Can you explain what that means?
So that is just us not asking for the tax credit that we would get for our 2016. It's the qualified school construction bonds that we did in 2016. So we're just saying, we're not asking for the interest because the government is going to give us a tax credit on that
And leave that
interest.
with the taxpayers.
Yes. Which is what we did last year.
Right.
It's a small break,
It is.
okay? Just that we're doing what we could possibly do. Okay, this is just discussion, correct?
So I did see that. So usually we would do a discussion if we would need to have a truth and taxation hearing. So it's really up to you guys. I'm making a recommendation.
Okay. But we're not voting on this recommendation this evening, so
Okay.
that's what I said, it's just discussion of that.
When is your levy due?
The last Tuesday in December.
So we will vote on it before then.
Okay, thank you.
If we have any questions, we can
Yes.
ask you.
Absolutely. I'm ready for all the questions.
Okay. Great. So that will bring us to, is there anything else?
Nope, that was
Okay,
it, unless
good,
you guys
okay.
have questions.
I see none, but we will.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like the tax abatement.
I knew you would.
Yeah, I've always been on record, and it's not gonna stop. Technology, upgrade of Skyward. Skyward sounds like something from Terminator, doesn't it? Seriously, folks, doesn't
Never
it?
thought
Beware of
about that.
Skyward. It is. Yeah.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Geddes. Annette Hummel, Director of
Thank
Technology. So yes, I'm here for the recommendation to upgrade our Skyward system. That is our student information system and our employee information system housed in one.
And financial.
And our financial, yes. It covers all of the student data, employee data, payroll. We have True Time on there that we run on with time clocks, so that information goes through for payroll as well. And we're doing food service inventory now. We're just, that's something we're starting to implement now, and getting that squared away. So this upgrade has been in the works for quite some time. We have not proceeded to go that route. Initially, they were not prepared for a district like ours that does student side and business side. Since then, they have upgraded and fixed that issue. We have talked to several districts just like ours that have now went ahead and gone with the upgrade. Things are working well. They've worked out a lot of those kinks that they had initially. So right now, we feel like that's a good time. This is a process. It's a 9-month process, is what they're telling us.
You could have a big-
So we want to hurry up and get this started as soon as we can to hopefully by next summer have it implemented and then start the next school year off. So the new Skyward is called cumulative. And so this migration, the quote for that will be $27,525. And so the scope of the project will be the management, the migration services, conversion of the e-signatures that we use in Skyward now, and any of the training for the staff. And there will be lots of training. They will supply lots of training for that. So with that, I recommend that the board approve the Skyward migration update.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
Motion.
Second,
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
one of the issues is, that I hear, Skyward goes down, more than teachers would like. Have those bugs been worked out?
So part of this was we've kind of got a jump start on that. When we over fall break, we moved to IS Corp. So now our system is not housed here. So what would happen was we had the on-premise server here, and when we would lose power, it would shut down, and so it shut down and until it came back up. We also had issues. There were some other issues that we are working that I've come to you previously about the UPS for the power and things like that. So all those things we are slowly getting all those bugs fixed. So now when we have an issue, we put in a ticket to IS Corp and it's housed outside of us now.
It's in the cloud.
Mm-hmm. So
Thank you.
we call them and they take care of it. Any other questions?
Any questions, comments? Seeing none. Okay, we have a motion for upgrade of Skyward, $27,525. Okay?
That's probably the lowest I've ever brought to you.
I was gonna, when I thought about the magnitude of what's gonna happen, I went, this is not really, I thought the number would be much larger.
This is just a chunk. This is a chunk.
But I feel good about this is only
migration.
$27,000.
Okay, we're gonna migrate. Okay, but I'm okay. Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Easton?
Yes.
Mrs. Terry?
Yes.
Elder Park?
Yes.
Dr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Schrader?
Yes.
Mrs. Howard?
Yes.
Dr. Ash?
Yes, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Happy migration. 9 months of it. That brings us to item 14, buildings and ground, approval of facilities plan. This will not be the final decision on Garfield. If, for those of you who missed this, we had this discussion in the facilities plan meeting about Garfield, and we asked that we see the impact, it's like an impact study of the distribution of students, teachers, through the district without Garfield there. So until we see that, we have postponed our final conversation or what we're gonna do, and there's gonna still be, even then, it's not the final conversation on Garfield, until we see that. So whatever we do tonight is not it's not impacting the closure or won't be the closure of Garfield included in it, correct?
Correct.
So now what do you have then?
Good evening, Dr. Geddes, board. My name's Skip Truex, Director of Building and Grounds. I have with me Seth Oldfield, Supervisor of Operations. And what I'm asking the board for this evening is to accept the facilities proposal that was presented last week.
Last week?
Yes, last Wednesday.
Move to approve.
I have a motion, and I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
In your presentation to us, it was very specific to most things. It was really great. I did not see a timeline, a projected timeline for the expansion projects for KDBA in Northeast.
The current timeline that I have, and a lot of it depends on acquiring the materials and for the buildings and
Sure.
the mechanical equipment. But right now, the projected timeline is the end of 2024 to have them both complete.
2024,
Yes, as well as several other projects.
right. You had attached timelines or completion dates for some of the other most of the other projects. So I was curious. Thank you.
I had a question just about Danville High School specifically. I noticed it does take away 2 classrooms to have the clinic. Is that correct, or is it more than 2?
In the basement, it's downstairs, actually. It's off of the cafeteria area. Currently, they're being used for repurpose and refocus. Is that what they are? Yeah, they're not, Tracy, I mean,
Are you talking about the health clinic? Is
yes,
this the health clinic?
yes.
Okay, because nobody knew about the meeting last week.
It was public.
So my question is just simply, if it's taking 2 classrooms away, is there a plan to figure out a way to get them back, or is it not really necessary to you? What are your thoughts on that? That was it.
There's a preliminary plan to move some stuff around in one of the entryway classrooms. But we haven't really nailed that down specifically yet, but yes, there is a plan.
Okay, yeah.
And I can say initially, when we first took the look at it with Southern Illinois Healthcare Foundation, we didn't have anything in there.
Okay,
So we have used that room, we haven't.
got it.
And may I just a comment, I'm just gonna say, first of all, we didn't hide me.
Did you ask for like public use?
We sure did. It's posted on the district website 48 hours.
Okay, because I think there might be
Why
a
are we
lot
doing
of
that?
people that don't know about it. And then when we did put it up on Facebook, it was removed.
It's not on Facebook.
Well, when
On the
we were
district
trying to
website.
share it with people, it did
But
get
this
removed.
isn't a
Well,
discussion
no,
right
Vermillion
now.
County first had it.
Public-
Ma'am?
Yes.
Uh,
I'm just
we-
asking, I mean, he's talking about something that took place at a meeting last week that there's a lot of us that did not know about, and this is the clinic. So, I mean, people are curious about the health clinic, the federally qualified health clinic, is that correct? Is that right?
No, it's Southern Illinois Healthcare Foundation.
Okay, then what is federal
That-
qualify?
So they are getting, along with, in a partnership with, are we doing this? Because this isn't a discussion, so
Just
I'm
do
sorry.
it, just do it now because she asked this question.
So
We'll
along
humor
with
her.
Carl, OSF, and the Southern Illinois, they have come in collaboration with the partnership that we approved at the 2 board meetings ago. We approved that partnership, and we talked about it then, that a part of it, bullet item probably number 5, included a healthcare clinic. And so they are applying for the FQHC.
So then what are they gonna be doing with the South Clinic? Because I think it's parents and children, right?
So initially, it's children. That is the initial focus on it. And then we agreed to include parents because of the safety issue with access to the building. So that's why we couldn't open it immediately to the public. But if you wait for Step Up on December 8th, they have there's a larger conversation between the city, the Vermilion County Health Department, and they will be announcing a larger partnership on December 8th.
What are you gonna be doing at this clinic?
The health clinic.
I know, but what are you? what
We're gonna be
are you
doing health
training?
clinic things.
Okay, like what?
But
Like
and
what?
we'll have a discussion of that some other time. We're not here just to discuss the health clinic this evening. It's all the facilities.
So you're gonna have a discussion with the public about what is gonna be going on at the health
We
clinic?
have had several discussions
Who
with the
were
public.
those? Because
I'm
I
sorry
don't
that you were,
remember.
I'm sorry, ma'am, that you weren't there, but, well, I mean, we're trying to get the facilities done this evening, and we're trying to stay focused on that. And we'll be more than glad to, in a separate discussion with you,
I don't
have
want
a,
a separate, I want a public.
We had
discussion.
that. You missed it.
we've had it, I'm sorry.
Did anybody,
You could ask them, they probably weren't there.
pardon me?
They probably weren't there. I don't know, but this
Well, nobody
isn't,
knew
we're
about
not,
the meeting last week.
Yeah, yeah, how many of you did?
Raise your
Yeah.
hand if you knew
Yeah.
about the meeting last week.
Uh-huh, there we go, take a look.
Was it
Yeah.
posted on?
And you were there. Raise your
Yeah.
hand higher, Corley.
okay?
I know because it was emailed out to district staff.
Okay, well, parents didn't know.
It's on same way we announced this one. Nothing changed.
This one was not on the calendar
And-
and it wasn't streamed.
And we are more than glad to have a discussion with you, so you can have your one-on-one
I
discussion.
don't want a one.
Well, then you're not gonna have a discussion,
Okay.
because,
Moving on.
okay, so thank you, because we do have to move on.
Got it.
And this
Dr.
is,
Ashton, I had a question regarding facilities.
we tried to give you as much information as we possibly could, with the constraints of, I mean, we don't wanna be here all night just discussing that. But-
My question has to do with KDBA. One of my, and it's right now intend to vote for this, but I am concerned. I don't know that, I think we're gonna outgrow this quickly. Even once it's done and it's gonna be fabulous, I think that the needs for alternative are beyond what we've got planned. Is there room to expand again? Or is there any discussion about that? Is there wiggle room in there? And I'll just warn you, I'm gonna ask the same thing about all-day pre-K, because once we are able to provide more all-day pre-K, the community has such a need for that. Are we thinking about that in terms of our facilities? I think it's built in, but I want you to be able to address that.
Currently, we have
Oh, wait,
wiggle room
Skip,
at.
Before you address that, hold on. Did we not also talk about not only KDBA with that expansion, but did we not also talk about looking at additional alternative programs, not just KDBA, but especially when we talked about our lower levels, that may not be what we now call KDBA?
I think that's what you were talking about with the virtual, the
No,
virtual.
I'm not even talking virtual. I'm talking
Facilities.
yeah,
I don't
because
think
there was
that's in
also
here.
a question, there was a question, not last board meeting, but had been discussed before that we needed to look at something at the elementary level because we have nothing. And I wasn't thinking about virtual, I'm talking brick and mortar.
For fifth
And
sixth
that
grade.
was, that's why I said with that.
So that, we did. It kind of morphed into our conversation about Garfield, because there is an organization that wanted to take a piece of Garfield and service our students more exclusively. Not Rise, circle, they wanted to see if they could take over. So there were multiple conversations and that included use. So it was kind of morphed into another conversation about Garfield.
So my only objection to it, and it's not really a facilities issue, is that I think we may be short-sighted in some of those areas, and we may outgrow this, maybe even before it's finished. That's my only concern, and I don't lay that at your feet, Mr. Truax, because you're the building guy. You're not the student guy. But I just need to voice that opinion. But it's not an objection, because I'll still vote for it.
Mhm. There will always be the, I call it the electronic part of it, or what's it called, Mary Ellen? Where they
E-learning, remote learning?
Yeah, e-learning. There'll always be that part of it that won't be brick and mortar, I'm certain. And I do know that the rooms that we're adding should help relieve some of the pressure that we have. There is some availability of adding more to that area, but as you well know, we're somewhat landlocked currently,
Right.
but not forever. I want to put it to you that way. So, yes, to answer your question, I do believe that we will be able to expand. If it's another 2, 3, 4 years or whatever, that would be great. But at the present time, we are dealing with a time frame, and there are rules and regulations with the ESSER funding. We can't just go out and build a new building.
Right.
It needs to be attached to something. And we have actually looked at several different areas, but most of the people that we've had conversations with feel that KDBA is in a good location.
Okay.
So, and there are some other, I think that once the gym is built and they can expand just a little bit more and have some breathing room, as well as some outdoor schooling. Along with this, there's some other things that are gonna happen with the building that will make it even nicer. I think that will help for quite a while. And then, like anything else, it's fluid. I mean, the entire district's that way.
Right.
I mean, we're constantly juggling things around because, things happen to buildings that you don't foresee.
Right.
And so, you have to make quick decisions and think it through. And, none of the decisions, we've been talking about this stuff for several years. None of this stuff was just knee-jerk reaction.
Right.
Even the 72 edition at Danville High School, I've actually been working on that since 2016. So, a lot of this stuff has been around for quite a while. And actually now is the opportunity that we have to proceed with a lot of the dreams and expectations that the community might have. And it'll better serve our staff and students.
Yes.
So, I'm confident in what we're doing.
We've done a better job putting this together.
Well, I do the building part and all that kind of stuff, and Seth, he does the PowerPoint part.
The muscles of the brain.
No, he does.
That's it, all
He's-
day.
He's my techno wizard, and he does like the cameras. I mean, have you guys not seen our flow chart? We have a flow chart. You guys all need to see our flow chart because constantly we're going back and forth. That's on your flow chart.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll say something. I assume that this is actually kind of a fluid deal, that even though we have this plan that we are going to bless, we need to bless this because we have budget guidelines, we have ESSER 3 money things. Let's be realistic here. It's not like all of it out of the sky flew the facilities plan. As you said, we've been discussing this for years. All these little plans, and it's come together, so we have this one plan that we can work on from now. This is gonna change, okay? This is the plan right now that we need to be able to embark upon the next part of the journey. And if some of the things change and our needs for KDBA or the high school change, we will change with it and morph in the process. So, It's not like, well, you said this is gonna be the plan. I assume that we have the power to be able to make adjustments on the fly and go, so that's how I look forward to doing that. So,
And with ESSER funds, you know, the projects have to be completed by a certain date. And they're not budging on that very much. And we think that it may be extended a little bit, but we really don't want to take that chance. And the lead time for a lot of things that are out there currently, the numbers are astronomical. I mean, I'm hearing lead times from manufacturers on projects that we're currently doing in the district, and we're looking at 26 to 46 weeks on stuff. So, you know, that's why we need to keep moving.
Well, I'd just like to say thank you, because I know before all of this, we had asked you to bring this plan, because it had been, as Doctor's saying, had been sitting out there. And for us to get started, like you're saying, before we're out of the ballpark, I mean, you know, out of the realm of getting some things done and things that we already knew needed to be done. So we appreciate it.
okay. Roll call vote, please.
Elder Park,
Yes.
Mrs. Collins,
Yes.
Mrs. Beard,
Yes.
Mr. Easton,
Yes.
Mrs. Schrader,
Yes.
Pastor Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Ashby.
Yes, motion passes 7-0. That brings us to informational items, please.
So, yep, and that's gonna get me started. But, and I'll do that right after, I want to say thank you to the Danville High, I'm gonna do comments at the same time. Thanks to the Danville High School Music Department for a Veterans Day concert yesterday, outstanding job. Our parent-teacher conferences were well-attended this year, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you for being parents, thank you for being an active role or playing an active role in your child's education. Condolences to our very own Christine Martin and our ID department on the loss of her son. And thank you to the Garfield team for your comments, and the staff and students and parents who've been sending information to us. We do appreciate that information that you've been giving us. With that, I want to say, you know, when you talk about unsung heroes, our food service department doesn't, the gentlemen and ladies in the food service department don't often get noticed, and they went through a training to learn about actual cooking recipes. And they stayed late, and I had some pictures that Annette's gonna show, because I wanted you to see them.
Just didn't want to open up today.
Maybe she'll show.
I will.
If not, we'll blame it on Skyward.
I had them up earlier. Try this. Don't know.
No?
Yeah.
Look like tech coming out to help
I
tech.
know. My bad.
I could have helped too, Jim.
I know. It's on there. It's just showing as a shortcut.
See that there, isn't it?
Anything else to say?
No, I saved that for last, like, you know, it took my whole.
Some
I have them
pictures.
saved right on here.
There's a bunch of JPEG.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted them to know that we remember.
Stay positive.
It's right there. Yeah,
Just
no.
to be highlighted first.
Yeah, but it's not opening those up at all. Like it down. All the way down. And see, it's showing it just as a shortcut.
Closer. There we go. Food service training.
It's showing it as a shortcut. Hold on.
Don't worry about if it's not working.
Yeah, it's not.
It's okay.
Sorry.
You know what I can do in that? When I send out the staff summary of the board meeting, I'll attach the pictures to my superintendent update.
They opened up earlier, but it's not.
Because I did, you know, they are in the back, working to serve the students, and I wanted them to have the opportunity to come to the forefront. Because I do appreciate the time that they took to learn the new recipes. We are in the middle of an audit, which is why Ms. Pajot is back there still working on the paperwork. And I'm really hoping to address many of the deficiencies that we've had for a number of years and get us back on the right track. So I just want to say thank you to the ladies and gentlemen of the Food Service Department for their participation last week. That's it.
Great. This son first. Elder Parks, anything you'd like to say?
I want to express my appreciation to the staff and the work that you all are doing. This is my second board meeting, and I'm still learning the process, and I thank you all for the support that you've given.
Thank you.
Just like to say again to all of the staff, everyone that's been working, again, getting us ready for all of these improvements, to Mr. Truex and to Seth. And just glad that this part of this process is getting ready to move forward, and we're gonna do everything we can to improve our facilities and make things even better for our staff as well as our students.
I too would like to echo my thanks to the district staff and administrators. We see you, we hear you, we know how hard you're working, and thank you very much. I would also like, again, to say thank you to the students at the music department. Last night's concert was really heartfelt and heartwarming. It's good for me as a grandma of two kiddos who were up there to see their sense of learning patriotism and what it means to be part of this country. And I'm so appreciative to Ryan Kraft and Jeff Thomas and Gage Womack, the instructors for the music program. So the symphonic band, the DHS strings, and the madrigal singers all were wonderful. And I just wanted to say thank you very much to them.
Just thank you to Dr. Geddes for helping get me oriented to this spot. Also, Mr. Rossi at Southwest and the staff there for walking with me, showing me some things around there. Mrs. Brooks at Northridge and your staff. Mrs. Porter at Edison, Mr. Rice at Mead Park. Got to meet them. That was fun. Mr. Thorlton at Northeast. Been over there as well. Great things happening. And of course, Miss Cherry, thank you. Great things that happened at the high school, and I was glad to walk around with you for a little while. So thank you.
I'd just like to say, several weeks ago, I said that we get a lot of emails with a negative, and I was asking for emails for the positive, and I got them. Edison, you were the big winner. A number of your parents emailed me, and they appreciate your staff. Ms. Porter, I had to say, well, I can't let her take all the credit. I raised her from a pup. But I just want to say, they were really shouting out to Edison and what's going on at Edison, the staff, the students. And I wanted you to know that your parents heard me, and they had great things to say about what's happening at Edison. And I say kudos. And I hope that all of this, and I was glad to hear from Mark Denman tonight what great things are happening at Mark Denman. I know that there are great things that, like you said, that are going on at Denver High School and other buildings. But it's just nice to know that we continue to have hardworking staff, and that they are doing all they can to make great things happen for our students.
I would like to thank the members of the public that come and the ones who give public comments, and also the ones that come and sit and listen. We respect you and we value you, and you're an important part of this process. And I'm very glad personally that you're here. We listen, and we don't have to agree with each other. That we don't have to agree with each other for us to be part of the public conversation about our public schools. I think it's very important that you know you're respected and you're valued, and those aren't just words. I'm very sincere in that. So thank you for being here. We appreciate you. I also wanted to say thank you to Dr. Geddes and Dr. Ashton. We are getting through we're making a lot of decisions, and we're moving forward as a district in ways that are incredible. And I am, and some of it has been sitting for a while, and I am very proud and inspired and pleased and grateful to be part of a team, and I appreciate their leadership, and they would not be tooting their own horn, so I'm just going to toot it for them, because as a district, they do a lot behind the scenes, like the directors and all of our administrators and our teachers, they do a lot behind the scenes that we don't even, I mean, you'll never know, because it's just so much work. So it's not secret, it's just work behind the scenes. And so thank you, and I appreciate you and value everything that you've done and continue to do.
Thank you, board members. We will be attending the school board conference this weekend up in Chicago. So we're in pursuit of professional development for school board members. So we're looking forward to that for a couple days of enrichment as board members, and bringing some administrators with us. In the facilities plan, there was, and first of all, if you'd like to stay, we'll talk to you, and if there's some questions you want to ask us, and if any of you want to do that, if there's a group of you, I'll be more than glad to stay. Dr. Geddes will, and we'll answer any questions that we have to, okay? So please stay if you have anything for us, let us know. In the facilities plan, that we had the meeting last week, we had security for the high school, and we had commissioned a plan before COVID to study security, and there were several things that we're going to order and implement, and that we want to put into place. But in the last week or so, and we've had this discussion before, I mean, security at all the buildings are really, really, really important. But we really felt that we need to go ahead and do the same type of security plan, discussion, and have a company come and study the problem for us at Northridge. So we're going to do that also. So something to look forward to, just expanding security and looking for safety. Many years ago, when one of the first strategic plans, safety was one of the first concerns that popped up on everybody's list. So it's really important, and it doesn't always get the discussion that we really, really need to have. Not having a parent in a band or the show choir, which I really kind of miss. I also enjoyed the concert last night. I think it was absolutely lovely at the Fisher Theater. It was kind of weird to see everybody at the Fisher Theater, but it was really wonderful. It was a great setting, and they did a great job. So our fine arts program, kudos to them. Let's keep supporting them and turning out great students, so well-rounded students. So with that, if I see nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Dr. Jacoby.
Good.
Don't run away.
Keep going. Just keep going.
Can I just